Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our current session focuses on why teacher training for language teachers. I hope and expect this session would throw some light on the significance of teacher training for language teachers. Well, my dear students, we need to consider the following in this regard: role of language teachers, expectation from language teachers, and goal of language teachers. Well, when it comes to the role of language teachers, actually the role of language teacher is very, very crucial in the sense that the language that the teacher, the language teaching teacher would teach is going to be used, for many other purposes, academic purposes, for the learning of other subjects as well, apart from, the socialization purposes and the communicative purposes. Secondly, the expectations from language teacher. So in varied contexts, there would be varied kind of expectations from the language teacher to teach about the language, or to teach the language itself, or to teach how to use language in the functional contexts. These are varied kind of expectations that would be found in various, kind of social contexts. This also leads to the goals of language teachers. What is it that the language teacher himself or herself is aiming at? So these are the important aspects that need to be considered once we think of teacher training for these language teachers. Well, when it comes to L2 learning and teaching needs, wants, and situations, they are all multiple and varied. So L2 teachers should be trained in the context. There are a lot of objections to this as well. Another view is that L2 learning and teaching needs, wants, and situations are unpredictably numerous. Therefore, it is a futile exercise to try to prepare the teachers in advance to tackle those situations, because the needs are unpredictable, because the wants and situations cannot be predicted freehand. So why to waste time in training them for various contexts or situations? When they would come across them, they would automatically learn how to deal with that. This is another perspective. Well, what teacher educators can and must do is to help prospective and practicing teachers. To help in what? Develop a capacity to generate their own context-specified theories of practice. General theories of language teaching or general methods of language teaching are something else. But having a personal theory of language teaching and establishing your personal method of teaching through your experience and observation and the guidance that would be provided by the senior teachers, that is what makes a lot of difference. So based on their own professional experience, the teacher educators need to guide these young teachers through their personal, professional, and experiential knowledge and the skills that they have because of their stay in the profession. Well, there is also a need to recognize the importance of monitoring teaching acts as and show how teachers can self-observe. Now, probably this would be a new idea for many people in many contexts. Self-observation, self-analysis, and self-evaluation are the recent ideas regarding teacher training. When it comes to classroom observation, classroom is the crucible where the practice of everyday learning and teaching takes place, in the real sense of it. So this is what needs to be observed. What actually happens there, in the classroom, it largely determines the extent to which learning potential is realized and desired outcomes are achieved. So it's not how much a teacher knows about teaching or how much a teacher knows how to teach, for example, a particular item, or to teach in general, or to teach, a language skill, etc. Actually, the performance of the teacher, the realization of all this in the classroom, the actualization of all this in the classroom is what matters and what affects the outcomes of this teaching learning process. So the task of systematically observing classroom events becomes central to the goal of monitoring teaching acts. There is a need that the teacher educators, they observe their classes to see what happens. Well, several models of classroom observation are available in the professional literature on L2 teaching, which can be used depending upon the context. However, when it comes to classroom observation, there is a note of caution. Teachers who would like to be observed should choose a concerned and cooperative colleague as an observing partner. The observer's task is not to criticize. The observer's task is not to pass judgments, for example. The observer's part or role is to facilitate by observing and thus giving up feedback on that. So a person who is to be selected for observing is one who has the desired knowledge, skill, as well as attitude to observe and analyze classroom events. So the person who is going to perform the role of an observer has to be experienced, has to have the skills and knowledge with which he or she can observe, but alongside there needs to be, a certain kind of a behavior that is required or an attitude that is required so that, in a positive way, the whole process can be done. One who is able and willing to give a very fair and frank, not only frank, but also a very friendly comment on the performance of the teacher instead of criticizing.